All right. So we're going live, and I'm going to.
Do you want me to announce?
Nope, we're live already. And I just got to add Facebook on there. Because Facebook went down today briefly.
Oh, boy. Oh, I see that.
Okay. We are live on all.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Another Ask Me Anything happy hour where we are here to answer your questions. So, darn it, get your questions ready, and we're going to bring some answers right after this. All right, back at it. Another week, another Ask Me Anything happy hour with the crew here. We got a couple folks that are going to be joining us a little bit late. I'm just back from another trip, a couple trips actually, that I was on out in California speaking, and then out at an event in Florida. So back at it, feeling the heat, if you will, of being back from being gone almost a week. It's always fun. So yeah, joyous stuff. But let's go around and let's announce who we got here to answer questions. We got Gabe fully decked out in new gear. So let's start with Gabe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabe Rotana. I run a jiu-jitsu school in Newmarket, Maryland. I've been an agent and a money mentor with the Money Multiplier since 2019. And I'm really excited today that we're buying a farm, and I'm using my infinite banking policy to pay for the down payment. And it's pretty cool. We were able to get a 5% just down payment. And eventually I'm going to move my jiu-jitsu school over there. So I'll get rid of about $4,000 a month in monthly rent. So I'm excited to apply these principles in my life. And I've been running a weekly training with Jason. I'll pass it over to you. And yeah, he's been hearing some hints about this farm. So I've been really excited about it.
Congrats, brother. That's incredible. I love that you're not only teaching this, you're living it. It's, between your jiu-jitsu studio, between this farm that you guys are buying for the family. It's an incredible story. So I'm Jason Sipple. I'm down here in the city beautiful Orlando, Florida. It's a little rainy today, but it's still warm, warmer than Buffalo. We don't have that snow, right? Warmer than Joe. That's why he's laughing. And Joe loves when I do this. Look, I disappeared. Here I am, but you can still hear me. It's like a mystery. But I'm blessed to be here, as always, teaching infinite banking. Brian's got a bunch of stuff on his wall, but I'm going to go over to my buddy Joe next.
Yep, we had a snowstorm last week. Looks like Shauna still has snow by her, but green grass, and tonight, we're supposed to get pounded again for another 30-something inches, so bearing down for that. Anybody else out there, my team is going to be contacting you if you're in limbo to get through to set up the application call and to move through before the end of the year. So prepare for a phone call if you're with me.
Love it. I'll take it from here, Joe.
You take it. You take it, dear.
Yeah. I guess we're supposed to get another 2 feet of snow, which is always kind of it's sad for me to see it come down and then melt and then just do it all over again. I wish it would just come and stay. Like that would be fine by me. But I am Shauna. I'm up here in Buffalo. I live Joe lives between me and Chris. So it kind of goes me, Joe, Chris. That's how we take the south to the north over here in Buffalo. And I'm just happy to be here. Today's Wednesday webinar reminded me about how I got started with infinite banking. I went from like 6 years ago. The only way I ever saved money was in an envelope in my sock drawer. And now I don't do that anymore. I've had policies for 5 years. And between my 3 policies, I was able to I don't want to say scrounge up money, but I was able to scrounge up some money and put that to work with Joe and his team, this last week. So that's it. I'll pass it over to Brian to complete our circle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brian Fouts here. It's kind of interesting. I went back and looked here recently. I've been teaching infinite banking since I think 2016 when I first came into it. It's been a long time and been kind of a journey, but one of the coolest things I realized that when you have this kind of knowledge about how money works, about how it flows and how infinite banking can work. When you have life events and you have that better set of knowledge, you can react better to it. And why I'm saying this is that because a lot of you know I've shared this. I recently moved in November to Northern Idaho. That's where I'm at right now. Finally got my office set up, so I'm very happy about that. I'm not on a card, a little table in my bedroom surrounded by boxes. But this whole thing came about very quickly for me. And since I have this knowledge about how money works and HELOCs and infinite banking, man, I've got a cool plan that's going to be kind of coming to fruition in 2025. But if I didn't have this knowledge, I wouldn't have been able to react and understand how this is a benefit to me in this situation. So I'll be sharing more as the time goes on. But being around this campfire, being around this group, learning this knowledge can help you when things happen in life, because you can apply that knowledge that you might not have had otherwise. And so kind of my share right there. But let's get some questions in there. Let's ask some questions.
I love it. There is just a couple quick questions right now, but not too many. So definitely get them in there. Monica, I know Hannah's not on here just yet, but to contact her, her email is hannah@themoneymultiplier.com. So
it's spelled the same way forwards as it is backwards.
I love it. All right. And then
Brian, your wall's looking good. Yesterday, now, tomorrow, it's looking good, brother.
Thanks, man. I need some BYOB stuff on there.
You look more comfortable too. I think the one thing on the wall is a little crooked though. Maybe we'll check that out later.
all right.
I'm just messing with you.
So Monica also asks, definitely need this. Starting my tax service. I've been a tax preparer since 1990, but just got my LLC in 2022. Can someone guide me, please? So let's think about I know last week we sort of talked about if you were doing a business, and Gabe, you use infinite banking in your business. So let's say your business was tax preparer. How would you use the infinite banking concept for business?
So it sounds like what she's saying is you've been in the tax business for a long time, but you just started your own service and LLC recently to kind of go out on your own as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing. Okay. I want to make sure we clarify on that one.
That's part of the process. I know, Jason, you always say go out and be in the business of making money at first, which it seems like she's been doing that since 2022. She's been making money in her business, but how would she integrate infinite banking?
You have to analyze what, like a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, because maybe she needs clients. Depending on what her business needs and what stage she is in that business, that's where you're going to start to allocate money. But if you put the money in a policy first, then when you take those loans, then you can start addressing in priorities. It might be marketing, it might be something else. With my jiu-jitsu school, my first 2 years, I didn't market very hard because I wanted to make sure I had a good product first, right? I'd already been teaching for a while, but I needed to make sure it's a good product, because you don't want to market a bad product. But if you've been doing this for so long, maybe that's the first place to start, is getting clients.
And your question, Monica, I mean, you're asking about how to scale the business and how you could use infinite banking. Anything that's costing you money that you're going to use for the business, you want to finance that yourself. So that's what we're teaching you. We're teaching you how to take back that control from the bank, and then you can do what Gabe was just sharing. Like Gabe and I are teaching, like he mentioned, the 9-week black belt boot camp, right? IBC Made Simple. Tomorrow we're going over 10 of the biggest problems we see with IBC practitioners. So definitely check that out, keep learning. And then it's just really getting on a call with one of us or Hannah and finding out like what is the next step, because if you're not on the mat doing it, you can't know this. You won't have a perfect plan until someone meets you where you're at today, understands exactly what you're trying to accomplish, and then helps you map out that. That's our goal.
Yep. And one last thing I'll mention, sometimes in business, this has come up just from my conversation with clients that have businesses. You get stuck in your business and then you don't realize that you're actually taking anything off the table for down the road. So that's one thing I've experienced in my own life where, you're making good money, but if you're not taking some of it and putting it into another bucket so that it's there when that business maybe is not performing or whatever, you can kind of get in trouble. So one of the things that infinite banking can do for you is it does take some of the money off the table and puts it into that vehicle that can then grow and be there for down the road, thinking like future planning, retirement planning kind of stuff, but it also allows you to do the things that Jason and Gabe are talking about in between as well. So that's why I love infinite banking for a business, because you're funding your future financial life, retirement, but also using it to self-fund the business and grow the business. But as you said, you got to know where it needs to go.
The foundation would be the IBC policy to pay yourself first.
Interesting.
That gave us a lot of legs. Thank you, Monica.
Yes. Definitely come back, and as you narrow down those places in your business or where you think you think this is a good start, we just keep coming back and asking more versions of that question, and we'll answer it every time. Knights of Israel saying, do you have a link to the boot camp? And I do believe I put it in the chat. So Jason and Gabe.
Miss Shauna.
Yep, 9-week boot camp. It's moneyschoolrei.com/Jason-live. And then Justin, what's up, Justin? He's saying, I know you guys say do deals with what you know, like, understand. But what if there are deals in real estate and you don't know about real estate besides the basics from just owning a house? Same. But let's start there.
I mean, it's the same to me. It's the same for infinite banking. If you don't know about infinite banking, you go learn about it, right? There's a YouTube channel I've heard about. I think it's Chris Nogle's channel. That's probably a pretty good one to start. That's how you learn about infinite banking. It's the same for real estate. Go find a channel, go find a vehicle, go find some way to gain that education. That is going to be your best resource, is the knowledge that you have in your head. Bigger Pockets, a great example. That's one that I used when I first got my start. When I get doing subject to financing, that's how I went and learned about it. Go find a local meetup group in your local area. Go attend it. Go talk to the people. Learn about what they're doing. I mean, you just got to get out there and get surrounded by it, and you'll eventually learn it.
That's a great answer, Brian. And Justin, I love that you're here every week. You're a regular, so we always see you learning about infinite banking. So you have a passion for this because you're here, you believe in it, you keep asking about it. It's going to be the same for whatever you decide to go put your money to work and have it make you more money. Like if you show up at, a real estate thing and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I don't want to do this. This is terrible. Probably not where you want to stay. Like find the thing that you really strike some passion and you want to learn more about it. And it's something that is going to have you keep coming back to learn more, like Brian said.
Or here's a great example. If you come across a deal, bring it to this. Ask me anything.
Yeah, good point. Let us underwrite it for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's another great one I was going to mention, ask you, Chris. So one of the things you can do on real estate is if you don't know how to underwrite a deal, you can hire someone or pay a fee to have them underwrite the deal for you and underwrite the investor as well. What's that resource? Your mic doesn't work.
Your mic's not working, Chris. I don't know if you just hit it because it just was working.
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay.
I love that you're saying that because, like, we have Mike and Mike, or not Mike and Mike. We have Mike. There's too many Mikes. Who we brought into Private Money Club to do exactly that. They didn't really get much traction. They offered a full underwriting service. I thought it was a bargain for what it cost, but yet people won't spend a nickel, to do something properly. But then the first ones, if a deal doesn't go right or they get paid late, to come back complaining. It's just like, listen, like do the due diligence, do the underwriting. And if you don't know how to do it or don't want to learn because you don't have time, then pay somebody. That's how all of us do it. Literally, like I have Brandon in the office who underwrites my deals, but he doesn't work for free. I got to pay him, and then like when he underwrites a deal, like he gets paid. So it's that's the best advice. I mean, people hire financial advisors all the time, to manage their stocks because they're hiring expertise, or so they think they're hiring expertise, but in some cases they are. And they never complain about that. But yet when it comes to underwriting a real estate deal, they don't want to pay a nickel.
Yep.
Backwards, man. It's just backwards.
I just add, try to go to meetup groups. Real estate's one of those where relationships is really important. You can meet people that specialize, maybe they're wholesalers. And if you're a flipper, you want to know a bunch of wholesalers. You never know when your criteria fits them and they just want to get rid of something, you might get a good deal. So definitely learn and contribute. And I've been able to do some deals just from someone I had met through at a networking event.
I love it. I'd also look at the keyword, like exit strategies, stuff like that. Like just like knowing, I don't know. I would go to ChatGPT and say, I'm trying to be, if I'm trying to be a passive, if I'm trying to just be passive, what are the things that I need to know? And then maybe what books should I read? I love using ChatGPT for things like that.
Shauna loves ChatGPT.
I do, and I only have the free version, so
It's wild. It's wild. You can ask chat. Like I was, for instance, I mean, I'm just because I did this yesterday. Someone came prepared to the strategy session with all 4 of the questions I asked in the 79-second thing answered. I didn't even remember what the questions were. So I asked chat, hey, what questions did Jason ask in this? And it gave me all the questions in a breakdown in like 33 seconds. It's crazy. Chris, you could ask it to break down any one of your videos and it would give you the full breakdown. So if you guys are trying to learn something, of course, dig deeper. Don't take chat as the know everything, but like as a good starting point for something you want to know about, it's a great resource.
yeah, you know how like Google, the search bar is only so big and you really only ask it like maybe 10 words total. With ChatGPT, I'm asking it, before I ask the question, it's like a paragraph. I'm telling it to think a certain way, be a certain person, show me this side of something. It's like as good as you put into it. So the more you type to it, the better. I really love it. Christian Omar is saying, who do I contact if I didn't get my merch when I bought the Black Friday deal?
Yeah, Christian was on that thing today. I told him to email you. So
I think he emailed me already. So this might be a different person. So if this is a different person, because I already connected with whoever you talked to from the Wealth Wednesday
I think it was
webinar.
Christian. Maybe not. I could be wrong, but yeah.
You can email me. So Shauna@chrisnoggle.com. So email me and then email me your mailing address as well, and I will take care of that today. And then, okay, Monica is saying, what advice do you have on probate once it is completed? Should I put it in a trust or just add my 2 children from my 10 kids on title and deed? What do you advise on probate once is completed? Should I put it in a trust?
Once what is completed, though?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really missing what that is. Probate, when you die, you just look up, is it a probatable asset? Is your estate or whatever it is that you own probatable in the state you're in? You can Google that. So that's the first thing you should do is go to Google probate rules for your state. And then that'll give you your guidelines. Lots of ways to kind of get around probate. Number one, to get around probate, you would retitle assets that you have or set up you could do just a simple living trust, which are very easy, very inexpensive. Corporate capital could set one up in no time at all for not a lot of money. And it's revocable, so things can go in and out of it. But you'd want to move assets above and beyond the probate limits in your state into the living trust, which would then make those assets bypass probate. But not only that, give you a voice. So it's kind of like, we all know what a will is. A will is kind of your directive when you die. A living trust is kind of a directive plus, the bypassing of probate. So you can get really specific on how your trust or your assets are to be distributed, how you want them, what rules you want to put. We have this access to this legacy wealth guide, and I definitely tell everybody should get that. You all should have the Legacy Wealth Guide. It's a great template for how to set up your family constitution, if you will, your living trust and what you want to say. You guys, a lot of good examples. Sean, I don't know if we have a link we could just post in here or where they could go to get that. But I was going to ask. That'd
be cool.
She expanded a little bit too. So what ended up happening is it seems like she's experiencing probate right now with her parents. So her parents left her the house and forgot to add her to the title deed. But I'm assuming it'll make its way out. And then her advice is basically just saying, what should she do so that like maybe nobody else in her life runs into that same thing?
Consult with an attorney for sure. You want to get a good estate attorney that can kind of advise you on this. But most attorneys are pretty versed in this. It's a pretty basic, simple stuff. One thing we're doing is we're moving our house. So we're moving the house into the living trust. So we'll quick claim deed our house into our living trust. And we just got our living trust kind of buttoned up and finalized. We just got the EIN number. So that's what we're going to do because it's a revocable trust. So the house can be owned by the living trust. it's probably against the mortgage. They could probably call the mortgage for that. Again, consult with your attorney and maybe your bank that holds your mortgage, but it's a revocable trust. So it's not, the restrictions on revocable versus irrevocable are a lot different. I don't see where that would be an issue, but that'd be the best advice I could give you, Monica, is just get your attorney to give you some legal advice on what to do with the house. But that's what I'm doing. So I can only tell you, what I know from personal experience.
And then real quick, I think I know what you're talking about. So the Legacy Trust Guide, is this Garrick Gunderson one?
It is, yes.
Okay, so if anybody wants that, what I can do right now is if you email me, it's kind of like what would the Rockefellers do, and it's how they basically set up their instructions for the next generation and the next generation and stuff like that. It looks to be 25 pages long. For now,
It's so good.
Email me, so Shauna@chrisnoggle.com, and I will email that back to you.
It's just a guy that kind of lays the whole thing out. It literally goes step by step by step, and then it gives some advice on how he set his up, and then you can kind of take it from there, elaborate, get creative. I mean, there's no rules on what the language inside your living trust are, or your family trust, whatever kind of trust you set up. There's no rules. You can pretty much write it to be anything you want, but you have to think it through. It's basically like if you sat down with a piece of paper and you started writing out what you want to happen with all the things in your life, like all the things you own, all the things you've accumulated. You're writing down how you want them to be passed down. And you're also putting rules. Like you could say, maybe you got a child that, is just into some bad things. And you're like, okay, before my estate or before my car or before my accounts pass on to my child, here are the rules. Here are the restrictions. Here are the things. Here's how it's going to happen. Here's the amounts it's going to go. We're only going to distribute this much income, per month. And then when this, and this happens, we'll distribute more. I mean, you can set it up any way you want. And there's no restrictions. You could allow your family to just access the trust for educational expenses or, masterminds or coaching and things like that. You could make it so they have to take loans for everything and repay the trust, which is another way. You can set it up so that every family member that is part of the living trust the trust has to buy a policy on them so that whatever they spend in their lifetime, when they die, it replenishes the trust. So you can see there's a lot to think about. It's not just, I think a lot of people just want, hey, can you set up a trust for me? No, if an attorney ever said, yeah, we can set your trust up. What do you want? You got to think through what you want your trust to say and mean for your life. And then the attorney can draft it. I think too many people expect the attorney to draft it, which they will, and they'll charge you for it. But is that really going to be your wishes? And I think that's what this legacy guide really helps with.
Love it. All right. Okay, so that little brown dog is saying, can you use your policy similar to a revolving line of credit if you set up a monthly repayment amount, or do you need to repay back each loan one at a time?
What a great question that is, right? Yeah. Like how I need to take some advice from Little Brown Dog on how to do my trainings, because that's exactly I think that's the thing people are missing.
I'm going to copy this one down for next.
Yeah, when they take loans from their policies, they think they have to repay every loan. No, it's just like a revolving line of credit. If you put money back in, that's awesome, because then you have that money to use the next time, and you're paying interest on less money. So if you know how a line of credit works, that's exactly how the policy loans work. Yep. With one exception. The policies, the loan technically never needs to be paid back. So you could continually keep using that line of credit for the rest of your life. And then when you die, the death proceeds will make the insurance company whole. That isn't the case with a line of credit. At a certain point in time in a line of credit, they're going to call that line. You're going to have to pay the piper on that. But in the policy, the piper gets paid the day you die if you choose to truly use it the proper way and keep it working as a line of credit, which is how everybody on this panel here all uses their policies. Our goal is not to pay our policy loans back. Our goal is to keep our money out working for us as long as possible in making money. And when it comes back in on that recycle recapture, to keep moving it back out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Sometimes use the analogy and compare it to a HELOC. People know what a HELOC is. They go to the bank, they get a line of credit, and they use the house as collateral. What's this policy? You put in a deposit, you get a loan from the general fund. They're using your body, your death benefit as collateral. It's nothing more than a HELOC on your body.
Yep. And then I've been talking to some business owners, and that this comes up quite a bit. And they say, "Oh, how can I use this to grow my business?" And I'm like, "Do you have a line of credit, a BLOC, business line of credit, or a PLOC, even a personal line of credit?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "It's the exact same thing, except, as Chris said, you control the payments back to it." And they're like, "Oh," and you can see the light bulb just comes on. They're like, "Oh, so you've done the policy for your future, whatever it is. Take that money off the table, and now you've got a business line of credit to go to the business." So yeah, very cool.
I love it. Okay. Dallas Sullivan is saying, please, can you mention some good borrowers in PMC to check deals posted by them? So before you say anything, I'm going to say, no, you can't answer that question. And then I'm going to throw the disclaimer up on the screen. Now you can answer that.
I mean, I would be remiss to say any of the good borrowers on there, and I know that's what everybody wants, but it's kind of like you got to just do your own due diligence, because a good borrower for me might be different than a good borrower for you. Your criteria might be very different than what my criteria is, or Jason's, or Brian's. So you got to really come up with your rules for lending, and then go find borrowers that fit all your rules. And then I think that's one of the best parts about Private Money Club is you have the ability to communicate with borrowers. So first, you need to know, if you're a lender, what do you want? What is the interest rate you're desiring? What position do you want to be? What's the term you want to lend to? What kind of borrower are you looking for? Do you want a personal guarantee or not? Like all those things. And create your checkbox, and then go to Private Money Club and find people or ask people, and just do a templated message and send it out to all the deals that you like. And if they can respond and answer all your questions, I'm doing this right now. I got this guy that I've lent to a bunch of times. Okay. And he's gotten too comfortable. So now he sends me a message on there, and it's just an address. And he expects me to say, hey, yeah, I'll lend on this deal. Absolutely not, dude. Like, I know I've lent to you before, but send me the whole deal packet. Send me the appraisal. Like, I've got rules. You used to follow them, but now you got too comfortable thinking that I just lend to you because, like, now you've paid me off on a couple loans. But like, the rules don't change. Like, if you go to the bank and they lend you money once, when you go back the next time, you're like, hey guys, it's me. I need some money. What do they say? All right, sir, you've done this before. Here's the packet. Here's what we need. Bring me all the stuff. It's no different. So create your rules and do that, and that's the best advice I can give you. There are some good people. You hear us talk about a lot of these people all the time. They come on our shows and talk all the time. Those are the good apples, the good borrowers on there, and it doesn't take long to figure out who they are with you poking around a little bit. You just got to spend a little bit more time on there. Oh, yeah, and there's that disclaimer. This is education, not financial advice.
Yes. Appreciate the ask. It's definitely worth asking.
Oh, for sure.
We aren't able to answer it.
We've just gotten really strict around that because people, here's the thing, and let me just give it to you from me. We used to talk about different people on the page all the time, just in passing, just in general. And then, like when one of those, if somebody lends to them and then all of a sudden maybe they're late a month, or maybe they go a little bit longer on the deal, and deals all the time, they don't literally close on time all the time. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, you might land on a deal that your note said 6 months, and then 7 months comes and you haven't got your money back. Doesn't mean it's a bad deal. Doesn't mean the borrower messed up. Just might mean the bank's taking a little longer to close, which all banks suck right now. So that is happening on almost every deal. But then all of a sudden, that person that got that person's name from me or from somebody else just in talking will be the first to message us saying, hey, so-and-so didn't pay me my money back, and I heard about them on the Chris Noggle webinar, blah, blah, blah. So now they ruined it for everybody. Figure it out yourself. That, unfortunately, that's just where we've gotten, and it sucks, but you know what? That's just growth. That's just how it works. Wow, everybody got really quiet there.
I was in another tab. But to that point, though, honestly, most of the people that do come to Chris and something doesn't happen, they do not hold Chris liable for that. If everybody's really self-aware of their own their own role in that, but they do, make mention, hey, I saw this person on your show. So hey, Steve.
On self-awareness. There he is. What's up, Mr.
What's up?
What's going on?
Oh, no, I guess the time is now, according to Brian Fouts.
And you're on air.
Got the studio back, baby. What's up? What'd I miss? How's everyone doing?
Nothing. We haven't been doing anything.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Just
Don't worry, people. I'm here to help. So
I've never seen Steven in a green plaid. It's kind of cool.
thank you. This shirt's not from high school, I swear.
St. Patty's Day has come and gone. Or is that St. Patty's Day? Yeah, the green.
Oh yeah, that's a fun
Hey.
one. Shauna saw me this morning on What the F and then decided to copy me too. Just put the green sweater on.
No, I didn't. I was looking for a sweater.
Sure, Shauna.
Thanks. All right, Dexter, what's up, Dexter?
X.
Is saying, oh, sorry, I thought this was a question. It's not.
No.
Never mind, Dexter, but what's up? All right, Christian O'Mara is saying, how do I set up a policy for my business, or am I better doing just my personal policy to lend to my business?
Well, I mean, you can have your business own the policy, but first and foremost, you have to have the policy set up on a human body, human life. So that can be you or whomever. And then you can have your business own it if you want to or not. It's up to you. I do have a client that actually is doing what you're mentioning, Christian. They have the policy on themselves, or it's their wife, and then they borrow from the policy, and then they do a note from themselves to their business, and then the business does what it does and repays back the note back to them. That's just one way to do it.
That's how I do it. So Brian, I'll second that. So I like having policies in my personal name, and I'm going to move to the business in a second. But in a personal name, what it gives me the ability to do, and Shauna has seen this numerous times, I will lend money to the company, and the company will then pay me interest back. So number one, it's a write-off for the company, and it's me funding things in my own business, which obviously I know, like, and understand. So that's a nice thing. If it's company-owned, that you can't really do that. A company could lend you personally money, so you kind of got to look at that. But here's, I think, one of the biggest reasons to have a policy owned by a company. So in a company, when you have retained earnings or you have money sitting there, if you take a distribution of that money to fund your policy, that could be a taxable distribution from your company. So what a lot of people will do, a lot of business owners will do, is they'll just have their company buy the policies on the executive. Okay. So key policy, it's called, or key man. And now the company funds the policy with money that's already in the company. So it is not a taxable situation. So that's the big thing to consider is, if you're going to use personal income to fund the policy, then do the policy personally. If you're going to use business assets to fund the policy, maybe consider doing a COLI, a company-owned policy, because now that money stays in the company, doesn't have tax implications as a distribution or, just a taxable withdrawal from the company. That's the biggest thing to consider.
Yeah. And Christian, with what you do, like, I know Christian and I know Carson is your mentor. So Carson can guide you on that. We can get any necessary help you need on that. But being a truck driver, the way you're set up, you're probably the way that you're moving forward now, and getting your policy done is going to be the most beneficial. But you can always check with Carson on that as well.
Yeah, because there's really no difference between a company-owned policy and a personal policy. I mean, they're both going to perform the same. It's just, what is the use and what is it that you're trying to solve?
My one question to that, though, is like, what happens if your business has a policy, and like, what if you close down that business? What does that matter?
Change ownership.
Transfer.
There are maybe some situations where, like, if you sold the company, I've dealt with this. Like, let's say there's company-owned policies on the balance sheet, because it is a balance sheet item, and then you sell the company. What you're probably going to have to work out with the new buyers is some type of a buyout package for those policies, because you don't want the company to buy your policies that are attached to your life. I mean, that'd be a good deal for the people buying your policy. But normally what's going to happen is on that transaction, you're going to build in there that, part of your comp or your buyout is you getting that policy bought back. And it's usually some, consideration of the cash value in the policy is normally how they would do it. But you definitely want to consider that.
Would there ever be a scenario where you just transfer ownership before you try to sell the business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, but a lot of people, what happens, they get into the engagements, they get into all the discussions about selling their business. They forgot to move the policy. So it's already on the balance sheet. Then all of a sudden the attorneys and the accountants get involved. They're like, hey, these policies, are they part of the sale? Oh, no. And then that just gives them, now that gives the buyer leverage and gives the buyer like the ability to now be in the driver's seat on the negotiations.
Interesting.
Very important.
Yeah.
Here's just a couple comments on that. One question about asking about PMC good borrowers. So Shane from Navigate Your Ventures is saying you can check out the reviews on PMC and ask for referrals from the borrowers for people that they have, lent to before.
Great way to do it.
And then Tess, brought up saying, I loaned to someone several times, a couple deals out, the relationship changed and I don't do deals with them anymore and there's not the right borrower for me. So that also does happen. And
wait, oh yeah, get that Anderson one.
Yep. So a question from Anderson is saying, I just got a paper in the mail from insurance company asking something about percent or my dividend, like an IDO.
So sick of stupid letters. It's One America. They send that dumb ass letter out asking you if you want the indexing option to the dividends. Absolutely not. Rip that son of a bitch up. You want your dividends buying paid up additions. You don't want any indexing, no index crediting. I kind of wish I should call Dennis and be like, Dennis, stop sending these to our clients. Literally, no more of this.
Yes, it'd be awesome if they didn't, right, Chris? You always get that question. You're like, wait, that paper?
I've taken a few calls on them.
Thing.
Yeah, I've had several calls on those, and I got it myself. I'm like, why are we getting this? What's this for?
Yeah.
Yep.
But you do, with Chris's point, you do have a lot of choices on how to use your dividends. But the way we set it up is it's going to buy you more paid up additions, which basically takes your original contract, stacks another contract on top of it, and that keeps your cycle of money growing, and that's what you want if you're banking.
Well,
I say it's like buying little policies inside the big policy.
And I just had a light bulb a second ago with Navigate Your Ventures. I didn't realize that was Shane. So Shane, that is awesome.
I never realized that too until he just emailed me, and I was like, Shane. That's literally what my email just said.
Yeah, he at one point he was just Shane a couple years ago, and now look, right, growing. I love it.
All right.
Chris has spent too much time on the snowboard. And
we'll hit this one fast real quick.
I'm messing with you, Chris. Yes, all states are now allowed. So we revamped everything with the rollout of 2.5. So yeah, there are no excluded states with the exception of Colorado. If you're a resident in Colorado, you are not allowed to lend. Dumbest.
But you can post a Colorado deal, it seems.
Oh, like. For sure.
Still, that one sounds fake to me. That always sounds like a myth. I'm like, this is so weird. So okay. So Andrea is saying, can I continue to be the owner of my husband's policy if we get divorced, if he wants to take the ownership away?
This is tricky. Brian, you want to handle this one? This is a tricky thing. This has got some legs in some. This has got some real legs on it.
There's actually a personal answer and a legal answer. So the legal answer is during the divorce, when you have the attorneys doing negotiations, the policy can be part of the negotiations. So keep that in mind. So but if you're the owner of it, you own it, clear and day. He can't take it away from you. Obviously, divorce, being separate, but yeah, you own the policy. So he can't force you to give it away unless it's through the divorce proceedings. But yeah, so that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. And this has come up, by the way, with me with clients. Where I have a person that's trying to get a policy. They're insured, but the policy is owned by the spouse, the wife. And so the husband actually has coverage that he does not control. So he can't qualify for another policy because of the limit of the death benefit. So, yeah, you can own it. So.
And Brian, how were you? Just curious, how were you the expert panelist on this one?
I don't know, but it's just kind of funny when I saw them before, and I'm like, there's a legal answer and a personal answer. The personal answer is, well, if it's up to you. You can keep it. But I've come across it before. That's why. So in enforced policies, and so yeah, but my client couldn't get a policy. He was max insured. The divorce destroyed him financially. His income went down, so he couldn't qualify for more death benefit, and he couldn't get a policy. And the wife would not give it back. That happened. So it was unfortunate for him and a benefit for her. But also, if you're the owner of the policy, you can also change it and change the beneficiary, all the kind of stuff. And so on this case, I don't want to get into this too bad, but the wife transferred ownership away from their kids into somebody else that the husband didn't want to have be the beneficiary, but there's nothing he can do about it.
Oof, rude.
Wow.
You might put a disclaimer up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some sort of disclaimer.
Dude,
we're
divorce is
entertaining
messy stuff. That's why I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, so that's just one thing we definitely do. You do want to keep in mind when you're talking through policies, who's the owner, and your spouse is the owner. You do definitely need to keep this stuff in mind, but you can also structure your marriage and the policy so that if something does happen, that there is a legal document in place that can then transfer ownership in the case of a divorce. So there are ways to avoid that situation, but it's a tough conversation, to be honest.
Real tough.
Interesting.
Thanks, Brian. I didn't want to answer that one.
Alan Worthy is saying, can you speak on setting up a policy for a nonprofit? I'd like to help families with special needs children obtain mobility vehicles.
Oh, what a beautiful thing. That's awesome. Joe, I think, are you the one that was just working with that nonprofit? Did we set up all the stuff, the Montessori school? Can you just speak on that a little bit? Because it's the same thing.
So the Montessori school will be the owner of the executives. The policies will be on the three executives of that school. And then if something were to happen to them, the money would go back and fund the school because they do special things. So one person was in charge of the banking, and to put a value on that person's life for what they did, it actually becomes part of the salary and how much it goes in regards to finding somebody to take that position over. So it is a little in depth of how to build the policy, but all the money that goes in on a monthly basis will just be like to pay yourself first, and then the operating revenue will be able to go through the policy, out of the policy being borrowed, and be utilized in that aspect. So they're just running the proceeds through on a monthly basis into the policy before they actually use them.
And I'm sorry, I missed it. What were they using the funds for? Did you say that?
For the school?
What are their uses?
Operating costs and different things with, the salaries and everything, because it's the Montessori, it's the school income. So the school needs to pay their overhead and such like that.
Interesting.
Line of credit.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done lots with nonprofits. I just thought that was a really good example. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Pat Tommins is saying, I'm sure you get this question all the time, but do any of you ladder your policies, for example, cash value paying for premiums in another policy? And could you explain the pros and cons?
Yeah, we used to teach this a lot. It's actually in our book. It does work. It just requires a lot of extra work, and you got to be incredibly consistent and persistent in how you do it. Otherwise, it can go bad very quickly. I don't personally do that. I never would, because if I'm adding policies because I want to increase my banking's capitalization. By laddering policies and use one policy to pay for the next policy to pay for the next, you're really not creating any more room for you're creating more room for capital to be put in, but you're literally doing it with existing policies, which you're not really making the money from the existing policies work any harder or add any economic value to your banking system. Brent does a really good training on this. And, when you look at it, the numbers do make sense, but you really have to take a deeper look at that training and just say, that's a lot of work, because it's a ton of work in order to do it properly with laddering them, one policy funding the next. In the long run, it would work out, but it would take many years and a lot of extra work. I would just say open policies using additional income or additional savings that you want to put into your system versus having one policy fund the next.
It almost comes back to just what's the outcome, right, Chris? Like what you're talking about, you're expanding your banking system to hold new money that's going to grow versus running the same money.
I remember I've watched Brent do that training many times. And I remember thinking after I got done watching it, be like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Look at that. That's really neat. But then it's kind of like, how many of you have ever watched real estate trainings where they make everything sound so good, but then you're really you get into it and you're like, Like I just saw this. I'll just give an example. At the mastermind I was just at, somebody was up there and talking about like BRRRRs, and they were showing like the BRRRRs and the tax advantages of doing BRRRRs, and they showed like, you know, an example of like one, and it barely made any economic sense, and then they showed like doing a whole bunch of, and then it kind of made a little sense, but like what they failed to show you is how much headache do you have for doing that. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, adding a bunch of single family BRRRRs, great. But like, is it really worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I would say with laddering the policies, the juice is not worth the squeeze. That's just my opinion.
Now, I look at it a different kind of structuring. Like if you wanted 2 policies and you get one in January and the next one is in June, it's like 6 months apart. So you're having like 2 different ones. It's not really structuring, but it's kind of proper placing of when you wanted the next one to be.
I've got 3 policies, and actually and they're all different. Like one's annually, and 2 are quarterly, but then they're like different based on like the start date. So I just like plan my 2025 of like when I need to, because again, I almost like infinite banking for me is forced savings. Like I have to start making these deposits, and I got to make sure I'm thinking correctly. So I just mapped out, you know, all the months that I need to be putting money in. And if for some reason one of those things I don't have it for, like what I can do is take cash value from another policy to pay that premium. But but that's like for me almost just a strategy, like a just in case.
And to that point, Shauna, when you're setting it up, and Joe, actually, you taught me this, is when you're going and like, say you start with yourself and then you're going to insure a spouse and then kids, look at the timing of it, you know, because I can tell you from personal experience, like I ended up getting excited, get my wife's policy going to solve one thing, then starting Connor's like 3 weeks later. And then I got mad because the government wanted like $40,000 for my payroll taxes for an S Corp. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to pay them. I'm going to put another policy on myself. But they all fall within 5 weeks of each other. And it's kind of rough, you know, for the first couple of years until every dollar you're putting in makes you more money. You're ended up funding a lot and capitalizing a lot of policies. And guess when it is? Right now. Christmas time.
Yeah, but you could just put it right in and take it right out for Christmas.
Yeah, but don't do that is my point. Don't do that. Like think through why you're doing it and the timing, and don't get too excited. Like really think through it. Think long term. Don't be like Jason.
But I still love it though. I mean, honestly, I looked at next year, and I'm not, you know, my policies aren't huge, but now that I have 3 of them, they definitely do add up. You know, to maybe 25 grand that I have to have throughout the year to put into these things. And like I said, when we first started the call, like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I was just a person that had, you know, $5,000 in an envelope. And now look at me, IBC is forcing me, at least in the year of 2025, to start putting $25,000 away for myself. Awesome. So I look at it as something to hold me to a higher standard. And it's definitely awesome and exciting all at the same time.
And I love that you're sharing that, Shauna, like the forced savings, the progress, how far you've come. Because everyone, it does, like I'm going to tell you, it's one of the things we'll talk about tomorrow in the webinar. But one of the mistakes I see is people like getting really, really excited and then forgetting that it's for their whole life. And then like a year into, they're like, oh, I don't want to put the money in again. Like, because I don't have access to all of it yet. Like there's that shift from short-term thinking to long-term and actually seeing it and keeping that big vision in mind. It gets lost sometimes, and it's normal. So just remember that, because we see everybody doing all the cool stuff with IBC and talking about all the cool things they're buying and investing in. If you're a normal person and you're putting money in and you're saving it, it's gonna feel a little bit painful until you get yourself used to that discipline.
And actually, right before I change subjects to another question too, though, is my life the past like 6 months, I very much felt like I don't have a lot of money, but I've been paying those premium deposits. I've been doing stuff, but like things are tight for me. So it seems, you know, in my day to day, but just put my head down. I've been working, and then I added up all my cash value, and I had $25,000 to work with. So it's also like that light bulb moment where I was like, am I broke or am I not? You know, like, and it was right there for me, and I put it to work and all those things. So don't be intimidated, be inspired by the wide variety of it all.
It's not a bill, it's a deposit.
For sure.
Patty said that's a good one, Jill. She's writing it down.
Dennis is saying, I am noticing more insurance sales from my bank and car insurance. Why?
Is saying more like offers, like they're trying to sell you more stuff. Chris, you're muted again.
And actually,
Chris,
Dennis, if you can add,
You're
come back
muted.
to that, let us know more, Dennis.
Look at Dennis's hat, though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I've seen it a lot too. Like banks, like when you go into the bank, they're always trying to sell you like an accidental disability and like an accidental death policy, or they're trying to sell you disability policies. They're trying to sell you all sorts of stuff. Like it's definitely more prevalent. I've seen it a lot, and I have no idea why the increase. Probably just trying to add line items of revenue. The last bank I just went to, like in Joe, same bank you did, the credit union, like, holy crap. I'm like, I don't need any of that insurance. I don't need it, because they just literally went down the line. I don't know. I mean,
Well, you got this thing listening, Chris, right? So you got this. And I was on a biohacking thing earlier today. For all the guys, all the ladies, make sure when you put these things in your pocket, you put it on airplane mode.
why?
Because it will, if you're a guy and you're putting it in your front pocket, it will affect your boys. It will lower your testosterone. It will
Look at
lower
all these
promise
ones
you
I
that's
got on
not
the
true.
back here, Jay.
I can promise you that's not true, and I can promise you those little stickers don't work. But carry on.
I got all sorts of them just in case one of
And
them's not working.
one of the guys who's known as the father of biohacking was talking about it and how he put it, like had actually put it in like cargo pants so it's down his leg farther. And then when he went and had a bone scan, his leg, his femur was actually 12% less dense in bone.
I saw that
because of having the phone there. So
Oh, great.
And then just in those stickers, they're just like stickers, and I'm
The
50-50.
Hero
It
company
could work,
supposed to
it
be
could
really
work,
good.
it could not, but they're EMF blockers.
yeah.
Some people say they work, some people say they
I had
don't.
that in duct tape.
By the way, call me, guys. I got a bridge in Brooklyn for sale. Call me.
You're mean. All right.
I just saw that bridge.
Oh yeah, how was Joe? How was New York? You went to New York you saw the Christmas tree.
Yep, it was amazing. A 6-hour tour, and they went down 5th Avenue, came back 7th Avenue, showed us the 911, the pools, and we went to did a ferry and went past the Statue of Liberty. It was amazing. I would never have seen all of that if I was just on my own. It was totally amazing.
That's super fun.
Same state and never been there.
Wow.
I agree. Worth going on a formal tour. I love them.
Totally cool.
All right, Fern's going to be at Sundance, Utah with us this February at our Experience Mastermind. And Fern is saying, once our whole life policy is in force, do you recommend we cancel our previous term policies and 401k through our company?
Where's that disclosure?
Yeah.
It depends. That's
Run the disclosure.
Yeah, run the disclosure.
There we go.
It
There we go.
depends. I didn't get rid of my term. I kept my term, but my term was set up. Like I have $1 million term policy and a $5 million term policy. My term was set up for a specific purpose, which all terms should be. It should be there to protect a specific thing for a specific term of time. So if that's what your term is to protect something that is has a term of time, not just, well, when I die, I want to make sure my family gets something. That's the worst use case you can use term insurance for. But if you're protecting, hey, if I die in the 30 years while I have this mortgage, I want it paid off for my family with the death benefit, or, I want it to fund, pay off my college loan, something. That's a good use of the term. And then you should keep the term. 401k, I mean, listen, this is general, not giving financial advice. This is just general. I don't know why people put more money into a 401k above and beyond the match. So you can take that for what it's worth. Unless your CPA advises you need major tax deductions, if you're just shoving a whole bunch of money into your 401k just on a hope and pray and you want to save more for retirement, maybe rethink that strategy.
Self-directed IRA, good alternative.
Like Chris said, Fern, it depends, right? Like I'm keeping the term on myself until my whole life coverage, outpunts that basically. Like just keep it if it's cheap and it's protecting your family or doing what you need it to do for a period of time, and then replace it with whole life at some point.
All right. Sorry about that.
Education, we're educational. We're not financial advisors. We're not tax advisors. We're not attorneys. We're just here to entertain.
Yes.
Within 30 days.
Oh, and then so Fern really, she does only do up to the match, so she can just keep doing that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you can put it in policies if you wanted to. You do
And
whatever you
then
want.
shout out Arnold. He drove me and Joe around when we were in Florida. So he said, glad you finally got to enjoy NYC, Joe.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so Monica Hawkins is asking, once you get the whole life, when can you take against it?
Within the first 30 days.
All right, and that might be all of our questions at this exact moment, unless anybody sees one I missed out on.
Bottom one.
Yep.
Perfect timing.
Oh, I am funding a Roth through my company 401k. I can put a lot more money in that way.
Yeah, it's an option. Cool.
Well, guys, what else we got going on? I know we have so the same message that we gave at Wealth Wednesday webinar today. So Christmas Day is a Wednesday and New Year's Day is a Wednesday. So we'll be back here next week for Ask Me Anything, but then we won't be here for Christmas Day or New Year's Day. So
Nobody wants to go do this and escape the in-laws?
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us for another week, another Ask Me Anything happy hour. We were graced with the presence of the master of disaster, and that is none other than Lazy Cash. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.